Thank you, Justin, and welcome to another Mindset Monday. And I just want to recap what Justin said. You guys are business owners, and so you know what happens behind the scenes. That's where most of the work is done. You know, Michael Phelps, if you remember who he was, Olympic swimmer, he held the record for the most gold medals for many, many years. And he talked about all the hard work was done in the dark. It was done at night. It was done when no one was watching, so that for those brief moments, you know, you could celebrate with him when he accomplished something. And Justin is doing the same thing right now. Behind the scenes, he is working tirelessly to bring you what you need to help your business succeed. So please give your feedback to us. We would love to hear it from you. What it is that you like, what it is that you would like to see as far as improvements, and just overall, let us know what your feelings are about the app itself. Now, before we get started, you guys know I want you to drop in the chat. If you're watching live, listening live, go ahead and put live, put your name, put where you're from. We'd love to shout you out, celebrate you, the contractor. This Monday morning, as Justin said last week, you guys know, Thanksgiving week, and most of us ate too much turkey, myself included. Actually, it was probably more too much pie than turkey, but hey, it's part of the game, right? So last week, we spent a lot of time being thankful. Most of us got to spend it with family, with friends, with loved ones, right? And inside of that comes this other idea, right? And it's this other idea of what is it that we're super thankful for inside of our businesses. And as we talk about Mindset Monday, there's a lot that we talk about that focuses on leadership. And in fact, today we're going to drill down a little bit more on leadership, because the truth is your leadership is going to determine the success or failure of your contracting business. Let me repeat that. Your leadership is going to determine the success or failure of your contracting business. Because the truth is, you can only grow to a certain level. There's X number of hours that you can work in a week without wearing yourself into the ground. And so you're going to need to build a team. And inside of building a team, guess what? They don't just show up and function. They're not robots. Even robots need to be programmed, right? Your job then transitions from being a contractor to being a leader. And so your leadership and your ability to be a leader is going to determine the success or failure of your business. And I want to start off sharing a story with you guys from the old history books. Now, I've been reading this book lately by Robert Greene. It's called The 33 Strategies of War. If you're into understanding how people think and why and how wars are created, lost, and won, it's a really, really good book, right? But inside of this book, one of the examples that he gives is of Napoleon. Now, Napoleon Bonaparte, some of you know who he is, some of you don't. Napoleon was very short. He was a Frenchman that lived in the 1800s, very short, but he also was one of the best military strategists and leaders that the world has ever known. But why? Why is this short man from France, why was he able to be such a powerful leader? And Robert Greene goes through and explains or talks about a few different stories, right? And not only was he a brilliant strategist, but he was a brilliant leader. He was named the commander of the French army in 1796, right? And they were going to war with Austria. The problem was they were battling over this particular bridge, okay? Now, up until that point, the way that leaders led was not from the front. The leaders led from the back, right? The soldiers were up front. The leaders would just hang out in the back and tell people what to do. And then based off of what their advisors told them, they would maybe adjust strategies or move things around. But ultimately, they were not on the front lines. Napoleon Bonaparte changed that. When he was given the leadership of the French armies, the first thing that he did was ride into camp to talk with, to meet with, to get to know his soldiers. Why? Because he quickly realized that success or failure depended less on what they knew and more around their unity. But their unity around what? Their unity around a single cause. And I want to read just a short little bit here, right? This is Robert Greene talking about Napoleon. And he says, he treated them well, but never spoiled them. He appealed not to their greed, but to their thirst for glory and recognition. He led from the front, proving his bravery over and over again. He kept his men moving. There was always a new campaign for glory. Having bonded with them, he skillfully played on their emotions. More than soldiers fighting in an army, his men felt themselves part of a myth, united under the emperor. Now, we're contractors. We're not at war. It would be kind of hard with a nail gun and a hammer to go to war. Why am I reading you an excerpt from the 33 Strategies of War by Robert Greene? Because I want you to understand a concept. And the concept is this: great leaders can build great companies. Poor leaders will destroy great companies. And you need to start to understand this as a contractor. Because the truth is, there's a mindset shift that has to happen. And it's the mindset shift from a contractor to a CEO, right? Chief Executive Officer, HBIC. I'll let you figure out what that one means. But the person in charge. And so how do we transition from being a contractor, working with our hands, right? Our money makers, if you will, into a leader? And that's what I want to talk to you guys about today. Now, when it comes to being a leader, the first thing that we need to understand is what a leader is. So I'd love to hear from you guys in your own words. What does it mean to be a leader? You can go ahead and drop it in the chat below. There's no wrong answer, by the way. But what does it mean to be a leader? I'll wait for these answers to come in, but you need to understand that through periods of time, there have been different types of leaders. Okay. And I won't get into all the different types of leaders, but I'll just name the most popular. The first is the authoritarian leader. Now, what is authoritarian leader? That's a person that tells everyone but what to do and how to do it. And if you don't do it that way, you're done, right? Then there's the laid back leader. What does a laid back leader do? He just kind of sits back and watches things happen and gets involved sometimes, maybe not. There's a leader by committee. What is a leader by committee? A leader by committee is someone who leads, but he brings in a group of people to lead with him, right? So there's a lot of different types of leaders, but those are the three main types of leaders. Now, we look in the chat, we got Nathan that says a leader is taking responsibility. 100%. That's a great answer. As we're going through and you guys are popping in, there is a little delay, just so you know on our end, as far as the answers. Hello, Nathan. You're from Timely Home Renovations. Appreciate you being here. So what does it mean to be a leader? So a leader in its purest form does two things. Okay. The first thing that a leader does is a leader inspires confidence. Now think about that for a minute. If you played sports growing up, or if you have a kid, you have either been instilled with confidence or you have instilled or given confidence, right? Think about this. When you're young and you're trying to figure out how to play soccer or football or swimming or golf or any other sport, you're scared. You're nervous. You don't know if you're going to be able to get it done. So what happens? So usually your parent or a coach or somebody comes up, gives you a pat on the back, gives you a hug, says, you can do this, you got this, right? They're instilling words of confidence. And then you internalize those words of confidence, you're able to go out and execute. Same thing with your own kids. I coached my kids' sports teams only for a couple of years because let's just be real, I was a bad coach. I was way too intense. But I remember the first time that my son set foot on the soccer field and he was nervous. He didn't know what to do. And so he froze, like literally at the midfield line. He stood there and didn't move. So I had to go up to him, give him a hug, give him some words of confidence and kind of tell him, okay, you got this. And he went and he played, right? He was able to do that, but he was only able to do that because I instilled the confidence in him. So the first thing that a leader does is instill confidence. And I want you guys to rate yourselves right now in the chat. Just toss a number out there between 1 and 10. 1, you are horrible at instilling confidence. In fact, you probably can't spell the word confidence. That's okay, but you're horrible at it. 10, you are the leader of leaders. You are like a Napoleon. People will follow you to their death. Okay. Where do you fall in this spectrum of instilling confidence inside of the people around you? Now, for some of you, it's employees. In fact, for most of you, it's employees. For some of you, it might be subs. Okay. For some of you, it just might be you. But when it comes to instilling confidence, Rate yourself, scale of 1 to 10. Where do you see yourself falling right now? Again, there's no wrong answers. All we're doing is just getting clear with where we're at right now. Don't worry, towards the latter part of this call and this conversation, we're going to give you some things to think about and some things that you can implement that will help make you a better leader. So, scale of 1 to 10. Still waiting for some answers to come in. T. Martin chiming in first. We got a 7. That's good. That's really good. Which, by the way, if you guys are rating yourself at a 10, I know you're not a good leader, because leaders are always looking to improve. So 7. 7's a good number. Where do you see yourself falling? Justin, 5 to a 6, right? Good. That's the reality. If I was to look at me, I would also say that I'm a 5 to 6. Why? There's a couple things that I struggle with. The first one is consistency. Okay. The second thing is with clarity. And we'll talk about that here in a minute. All right, Keanu, we got a 10 because God sees you more than where you are. So even if you're an 8, yeah, I get it. 100% agree with that. But again, that's just for us and our own sake. You see yourself as an 8. Cool. I think that you have room to grow, just like everyone else. Edward, we got a 6. Well done. Well done. So we're usually going to fall into 5 to 7. Most leaders will. Some of you will be a little harder on yourselves and you'll drop down into maybe a 2 or 3, and that's okay as well. No wrong answers here. It's just, how are you seeing yourself? Now, the second part of that was moving people to action. What does that mean? When I used to work as a police officer, there were things that you had to do and things that you didn't have to do. All you had to do as a patrol officer was respond to calls. In other words, someone told you to go somewhere to do something. Take a report for a vehicle burglary, arrest somebody and take them to jail, do what your supervisor told you to do. And the rest of the time, what these guys would do, yes, I'm throwing police officers under the bus. And for those of you that don't know, I was a police officer for many years before I retired in the Phoenix area. So I have every right to throw police officers under the bus. But there are police officers who would literally sit in a parking lot and wait to be told what to do. Now, they weren't doing anything wrong because they weren't violating any policies. They weren't going against orders or anything like that. They were just waiting for something to do. And then there were police officers who were more proactive and would go and would find things to do, right? So as a leader, your job, not only is it to instill confidence, but it's to get people to take action, right? Get people to take action. Now, what kind of action do we want people to take? For some of you, it's, hey, I just want you to show up. I just need a warm body. For some of you, it's a very specific thing. Hey, you're a project manager, so I need you to do A, B, C. For some of you, it's more complicated than that. But regardless, we need to, as good leaders, inspire people to take action. So I want you to now rate yourself again on a scale of 1 to 10. How good are you at getting people to take action, right? Getting your employees more than anything to take action. Be honest. Are you a 2 or a 3? Like, you just expect somebody to do it, but then they don't. And then you do what most contractors do, is you end up just doing it yourself. So you're really just paying the guy in the corner to sit around, or you need somebody to talk to, or you need somebody to eat lunch with. Or are you on the higher end of the scale, a 7, an 8, maybe even a 9, in that your people, like Napoleon's soldiers, would follow you into death? Why? Because they were united behind a common cause. So Keanu, we've got an 8 or a 9. Appreciate that, my man. That's really good. And odds are you probably had some good leaders around you in your life, and probably still do, that are helping you become a better leader. So that's good. I would rate myself probably a 6 or a 7. I'm pretty good at it, but again, lack the consistency side of things. So it doesn't matter where you are. Again, a good leader has 2 jobs. 1 is to inspire confidence, and 2 is to get people to take action. More importantly, their own people. Victor, my team works well. I have a 9. Well done, my man. Well done. All right. We're talking about leaders then, and we've talked about the example of a good leader. We talked about Napoleon Bonaparte. There's plenty of good leaders out there if you wanted to look for them. Current, you look in the past, Julius Caesar, Alexander the Great, George Patton. Yes, I do lend myself more to military style leaders, but there's more common leaders as well, right? And so you just got to think, like, what kind of a leader am I? And then how do I deploy that? Right? There's different leadership styles. Again, more than anything, what you need to start doing is thinking like a CEO, right? Thinking like the owner of the business and less like a contractor. How do we do that? And I'm going to give you guys some things that you can leverage, some tools that you can leverage to make yourself a better leader. Now, a leader has 3 main jobs. 3. That's it. You can argue with me, but they're all probably going to fall into one of these 3 buckets. The first one is cast the vision, right? Where are we going? Why was Napoleon Bonaparte such a good leader? Is because he could tell his soldiers, hey, look, we're not just taking this bridge, but this is where this bridge is going to take us, right? This is where conquering these people is going to take us, right? And it inspires people to take action, right? Casting the vision. So the first thing you have to answer when we're talking about casting a vision is clarity around where it is that the business is going, right? Now, if you're a roofer, you're a remodeler, you're an electrician, whatever it is, you're not just going to the next job, right? You got to get clear on where's this business going? Hey, within the next 5 years, we're building a $10 million a year business. Inside of that, every person that comes along with us is going to be able to profit share as part of that business, right? How clear is it? Because again, you want people to take up the flag, to take out their swords, and to go into battle with you. And yes, business is a battlefield. How much are you willing to instill that vision into them? Okay. So number 1 is where are we going? The second part of casting the vision is how are we going to get there? Okay. How are we going to get there? Because it's really cool to say, hey, we're going to build a $10 million business in 5 years, ready, break. And everybody's super pumped up and they're excited and they're charged up. And then what? And then they have no idea what they're doing. And so all of that energy and all that emotion that you built up gets wasted. Do that a few times and people just aren't going to get excited anymore. Why? Because we don't know where we're going, right? Over there. Okay, cool. But how are we going to get there? We're going over the mountain. We're going around through the stream. Like, how are we getting there? So you have to be clear on identifying the vision, casting that vision. Where are we going? And how is it that we're going to get there? The second part of being a leader, I call this right people, right seat. I know you're probably chuckling right now. I can't find a good guy to save my life. I get it. Has society changed a little bit? Yeah. The workforce, 100%. But that's no excuse. That's no excuse for you to drop your standards. Because ultimately what you're looking for is the right person in the right seat. The right team. 3, 4, 5, right team, right fit, right team, right skill set can outwork a team 4 to 5 times its size. So you're actually not after more employees. You're after the right employees. Let me repeat that. You're not after more employees. You're after the right employees. So when it comes to employees, we're looking at 2 things. The first thing that we're looking at, is culture fit. Who are you as a business? Who do you represent? And where are you going? And does this person fit your culture? Do they have the same standards? Do they have the same ideals? Do they have the same beliefs? Now, it doesn't mean that they have to be a clone of you. But if you like on your free time, hunting, fishing, snowmobiling, and you have people on your team who don't like the outdoors, it's going to be hard to build a cohesive team. Why? Because they don't like to do the same things. The other side of that is culture, right? The things underneath that are important to you. You should have very clear team, a very clear team culture, right? And inside of that, you're looking at who are we as a business. So for us, our core values are very simple. Number 1 is have fun. Life is hard. So is business. Doesn't mean you can't have fun along the journey. So number 1 is have fun. Number 2 is do the thing you said you were going to do, right? I don't care what you commit to, but I want you to commit to something and do what you committed to. Number 3 is do the work. Like sometimes the work sucks. Trust me. Dialing for dollars sucks. Driving to a job to bid and then nobody's home sucks. Spending hours putting together a $200,000 bid, sending it off, and then getting ghosted sucks, right? But the work needs to get done. And then the last one is go the extra mile, right? We expect people to go above and beyond to take that initiative. So those are our core values, okay? So when I'm interviewing somebody, what am I talking about? I'm talking about my core values. I'm talking about who we are as a business. I'm talking about what's important to me, but I also want to hear what's important to them. Now we're going down a rabbit hole, but I want you guys to understand that this is super important as a leader. Your business, you're in charge. Your core values guide the direction of the business. I had a good friend of mine. He was a mentor for many years. Eddie Wilson is his name. And he would use core values inside of his hiring process. We'll talk about this at a different point, but it's super, super important. The second thing then is the job fit. So once I figure out that you have a cultural fit, the second thing is a job fit, right? In other words, is this a job that you're going to enjoy doing long-term? For some of them, you might need a technical skill set. Like I'm not going to hire you to do QuickBooks if you've never used QuickBooks before. But if I'm looking for somebody to help me clean up a job site, I don't necessarily need that skill set, right? So I can be a little more liberal when it comes to hiring for that position. But you have to get clear on what are the minimum qualifications that you need for a position. Now, here's the crazy part. Ready? There's still a lot of good people out there that are looking to work with good companies. They just don't know they exist. There's a lot of good people out there that are looking for opportunities. You just haven't given it to them yet. I'll tell you this. If you're willing to pay above market rate for a position, you will get an above market person. Think about that one for a minute. Be willing to pay more to get more. And yes, you can hold them accountable, but you're going to have a higher quality person there. And is it worth paying a few bucks extra an hour to not have to deal with that headache? That's a decision you got to make. The third thing then, we talked about casting the vision. We talked about right people, right seat. The third thing is clear communication. Now, I'm going to date myself. If you guys have seen the movie Rush Hour, Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, one of the funniest movies I've seen still to this day. So inside of that movie, Chris Tucker, who lives in the US, is paired up with Jackie Chan, who's Chinese but grew up in Hong Kong, right? So there's a communication barrier. And during one of the action scenes, they're trying to coordinate how they're going to take down the bad guys, right? And there's a frustration because they're trying to communicate and it's not going across. And Jackie Chan in his broken English basically says, "Don't you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?" And Chris Tucker responds, "Man, nobody understands the words that are coming out of your mouth," right? And it was a funny moment, but such a powerful lesson as well. We like to think that what comes out of our mouth is super clear and everybody around us understands what needs to happen. But the truth is, half of what we say is understood. Half, which means what's happening with the other half. Most of the time, it's just falling by the wayside. And so when your spouse or your kids or your employees don't do things exactly the way that you want them done, or don't do the thing that you want them to do, whose fault is it, really? We'll get into that at a different date. But ultimately, it's your responsibility because you're in charge of communication. Now, going back to my police days, that is a high stress, high liability, high risk environment. So how important do you think communication is? You talk about the military, same thing, right? You talk about contracting, there are instances when it's exactly the same. You're putting up trusses, right? You're putting up support walls. You're putting up beams or pillars. There's a lot of opportunity for things to go wrong and for people to get hurt. How good is your communication? Now, when we talk about communication, there's two different types. There's verbal and there's nonverbal communication. I'm only going to talk about verbal today. So when we talk about verbal communication, what are we talking about? The words coming out of your mouth. Now, if only half of what we say is being internalized and interpreted and understood, we have to make sure that the other half somehow gets taken care of as well. Now, how can we do that? Here's a very simple strategy. When I was working as part of the SWAT team, It didn't matter the operation. It didn't matter whether we were serving a search warrant. It didn't matter where we were arresting a homicide suspect. It didn't matter whether we were in training. We would always have a briefing. Now, a briefing was nothing more than identifying what are we doing, how are we doing it, and who's responsible for what. Again, what are we doing, how are we doing it, and who's responsible for what. With those three things, right, there's a high likelihood that we're going to get the job done 50% of the time. Remember that. Now, what we implemented that helped increase our success rate was something called a brief back. Now, a brief back is nothing more than exactly what it sounds like. Say you are John. John, I need you to drive the vehicle and position it in the driveway. Cool. John says he understands. So we give everybody their assignment and then we come back and we have a brief back. Okay, John, what is your assignment? My job is to take the vehicle and position it in the driveway. Cool. Do you have any questions? Yeah. How do you want me to position it? How deep into the driveway? What if there's another vehicle, right? Now, all these questions that came up based off of one singular statement can be answered. How likely now is it that John can get the job done the way that we expect it to get it done? Much higher, because he's now repeating back to us the very thing that we need him to do. And in that moment, we can clear up any miscommunications, any concerns, any questions that may come up. Inside of your business, you can do the exact same thing. Whether you have one guy, whether you have 15 guys, whether you have 3 guys and 4 subs, doesn't matter. You can employ the same strategy. What are we getting done? How are we getting it done? Who's doing what? And then we circle back and ask everybody to make sure that they're super clear on what's happening and what role they play in that. Now, when we think about your contracting business as a whole, again, where does the responsibility lie? It lies on you. You are the leader of your business. What does that require you to do? 2 things: inspire confidence and move people to take action. Inside of that, your role is threefold. Okay. Number 1, cast the right vision. Number 2, put the right people in the right seat. And number 3, get clear communication. So here's my challenge to you. Take the information that we talked about today and find one thing that you may not be doing or that you could probably do better. And this week, go implement it. That's it. One thing. Because if you can implement one thing this week and then one thing next week and one thing the following, guess what? You will improve. And if you improve, your business will improve. All right, that's all we got for you today. Last thing, we talked about this last week, but we are live. We are live with drum roll. Where's my drum roll, Justin? You got it? Here's our drum roll. More of a joke roll, but that's okay. We'll go with it. January 18th and 19th in Provo, Utah, which is in Salt Lake City, we are hosting America. There it is. We're playing around with the sound effects. But January 18th and 19th in Provo, Utah, suburb of Salt Lake City, we are hosting American Contractor Live, which is our 2-day conference. Inside of that, I don't care where you're struggling in your business or where you want to improve. We got the people for you. We got marketing, we got branding, we got sales, we got team management, we got leadership, we got motivation, we got mindset. We have all of these different things coming together in one place for 2 days. Okay. You are not going to want to miss this. We have a limited amount of tickets available. We have 18 different speakers, 18 from all different walks of life. You're going to have people who have built 7-figure businesses, people who have built 8-figure businesses, and we may have somebody who built a 9-figure business. Stand by. Point is, doesn't matter what you want to do with your business, figure it out and come to this event. We are going to blow your socks off. So again, go to AmericanContractorLive.com. You can secure your seat there. If you want to be one of our VIPs, we only got 20 spots. Actually, we only have 18 because we've already sold 2. But you'll get some special perks there. If you want to sponsor our event, we're more than happy to have you. But you can get those details on the website. So AmericanContractorLive.com. Look forward to seeing you guys there. As always, appreciate you guys showing up on this Monday afternoon, morning, depending on where you're at in this great country. God bless America. Have a great week. Take your one thing, implement it, and let's keep growing your contracting business.